There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B. Also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. Today we are joined by Jeff Epstein. Jeff is the founder and CEO at Embasador. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Jonathan.
It's a pleasure to get to talk to you today. And we are actually going to be talking about how to leverage the sort of underutilized, the underrated power of word of mouth. And I know that you have a tremendous amount to say on the subject. But before we do get into today's topic, maybe you can tell us a little about what you and the Embasador team are up to these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the founder and CEO of Embasador Software. We're a B2B SaaS company, and we, again, help companies leverage the power of their audiences, right? Their customers, their influencers, their partners, to ultimately drive more revenue and to build a better business and grow their business.
That's fantastic. And I know that you and your company and your team have been up to some great stuff lately. You've seen a tremendous amount of growth. It's one of the reasons that we actually wanted to reach out to you and get you on the show today. And like I said, we are going to be talking about how to leverage the underutilized, sometimes underrated power of word. Jeff, why don't you kind of take it away? I know we're sort of going to start off talking about the way in which people consume, how that's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the big fundamental, shifts in really the way people consume and in the way people live, right, is we now, almost all of us have a screen in front of us with real-time information, social streams, reviews. We can literally buy while we're waiting in line, or in some places we don't even need to buy. Our phone can actually check out for us if we're in some certain, Mm-hmm. technology. So essentially the way that people buy is fundamentally changed, right? Mm-hmm. And some of us don't think about it because we're knee deep in it, but this is very different from even 10 years ago when typically you only heard about brands from a billboard or a TV ad or radio ad, right? Podcasts didn't even exist 10 years ago. So all of this is this massive shift has taken place, and the reality is, brands are still catching up, right? And I think we're seeing some really amazing modern organizations, startups, right, growing extremely well via word of mouth because it's a cool concept, cool product, and folks are buying because they see their friends and their peer group and their social streams mentioning these products and services. So it's amazing to see that. There's lots of various brands that are doing this really well, but across the kind of business landscape, this is still very underutilized. It's something that large businesses are just beginning to start thinking about how do they do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now more than ever, you're seeing all the things that your friends, your family, your colleagues, any connection, the things that they are experiencing, the things that they're buying, it's right there. It's being streamed to you in real time, 24 hours a day. And, you see these things and you think to yourself like, oh, that looks cool. And this is someone that I already know and like and trust, presumably, maybe I'll give that a try. So definitely makes a lot of sense talking about, the word of mouth. Let's talk then, the second point about the modern consumer and it being sort of mission driven.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best example I can think of is a company called Tom's. And Tom's has been around for a while. And they started this concept of, buying a pair of shoes and then donating a pair of shoes, right? Yep. It's an interesting concept. But if you think about it, and to my knowledge, Tom's is one of the first ones to do this. there are companies in every vertical now that do this. And the reason why they do it is because Tom's was incredibly successful growing a massive business by selling relatively inexpensive shoes. And for the most part, they started by selling them direct to consumer, which is incredibly more efficient from a margin perspective. And you can obviously grow much more quickly. You're getting a lot more of that profit. Simple looking in hindsight, but this was actually a kind of earth-shattering idea. And one of the reasons why I grew was obviously cool, and they did a great job with product and all those things. But it was also people were proud to talk about the fact that they were not only buying shoes, but they were actually donating shoes. People like to talk about things that make them feel good. You feel good about things that you do well, or things that you think are cool, right? Or products that you think are basically sharing with people that don't know it exists. And so a lot of times you can do all those things. And I think even taking it a step further, as you mentioned, the way people consume has changed, but the consumer is now probably more powerful than the brands, right? So the winner isn't the brand that spends the most money anymore, right? The winner is the brand that has the best customer experience, that drives the best word of mouth, that drives the best reviews and so forth, right? Like when we shop on Amazon now, I know I do, I immediately look at the reviews. And if it's not very highly reviewed, it's very unlikely that I'll buy whatever I'm looking for. I'll shop for an alternative that's similar, that has better reviews. So this is something that's, again, relatively new, but creating that great experience, providing a product or service that aligns with the mission of this modern consumer is so much more important than before, where, to be honest, the underpinnings of the organization were not readily available. We didn't know what a company thought about, donations, right? We go once a year if we happen to catch it, but we had no idea. Now companies are advertising this and making it super, putting it on the box. And so that makes a big difference.
Today's growth story is all about search engine marketing. The company we're highlighting is SentinelOne. This challenger cybersecurity brand was set out to disrupt the endpoint protection space. Their brand was top-notch, their product was innovative, but they were struggling to gain traction online in an already developed industry. Then they found Directive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency. Within the first quarter of working with Directive, SentinelOne was able to increase their organic traffic by 128% and overall lead volume by an outstanding 251%. Now, I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we have had guests on the show previously who have said specifically, if your customers, if your clients aren't advocating for you, if they are not singing your praises, I mean, you're doing something wrong. You're leaving a tremendous resource on the table. And so, I mean, this is even taking that concept even further. It's multiplying it. And so you had mentioned before a little bit offline that people are vocal, the companies are vocal about their ambassadorships. Kind of what does that concept mean?
Yeah, so what I think what it means, and what I mean by that is people are proud to promote products and services that align with their personal values, right? And if you think about this again, this all ties to our ability to have a voice that can be magnified and amplified. And so again, this is something that is relatively new with, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, et cetera, or LinkedIn as well. But before that, we had to either be an author or a celebrity to have hundreds of thousands or millions of eyeballs on us. Now we can build a following by taking cool pictures, or by being really funny, or by just writing really good content, right? Like all those mediums are available to us now as an individual, and we have people that we ultimately inherently influence because they have raised their hand to follow what we say. It doesn't mean that they're going to follow everything, but they have made a specific choice to follow us. And that means, when we say, I had a really great experience with, X company, inherently the people that follow me are going to pay attention to that. It doesn't mean they're going to actually act necessarily, but they, it may mean more to them, and likely does mean more actually scientifically, empirically to them than a TV ad. because they trust me more than they know that that's an advertisement. So that is an extremely powerful thing that, again, is relatively new. So that's what in terms of people being vocal about the brands that they care about and the brands that align with their values, people are inherently sharing those things, those feelings, and it's resonating across, their networks.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's get to kind of maybe the takeaway for our audience. People that are thinking about it and recognizing it, and they want to think to themselves, or they think to themselves, okay, what specifically can I do? Because I know you have said that companies are obviously realizing this message. They're having to leverage technologies, automate and optimize the opportunities. What are some pieces of advice that you could maybe give any of our listeners?
Absolutely. From a business perspective, it's super important, like you mentioned earlier, Jonathan. If you aren't getting referrals, you're probably doing something wrong. So at the very least, like, you should start thinking about, am I getting referrals? If so, why? If not, why not? Right. And then when you think about, most companies are, of course, right, you won't be in business very long if you're not getting any. But if you are creating these great experiences, you have to ask for referrals too, right? So it's more than just creating great experiences. If it's a lower volume amount, which many small businesses are, you got to ask for it. And then you got to figure out ways to drive, those interactions. And, just like anything else, what we do, of course, is provide software tools and really a suite of tools to help automate and optimize these things. So, but from a very basic sense, like, as a business, you should be thinking about, what does this person look like who had such a great experience, and how do I get more people like that? And then continue to fish there, so to speak, continue to sell to those types of people, and then continue to build that flywheel and continue to create great experiences, and hopefully generate more and more, referrals through those types of demographics.
Yep, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. And so, Jeff, as I had mentioned before, you are the founder and CEO at Embasador. Obviously, you have a vision for what you've been trying to accomplish. You've shared some of that vision, some of that expertise with us today on the show, which is amazing. And I do really appreciate it. I do kind of want to ask this one last question. It's been something that we've been asking a lot of our guests in 2018. It's this idea of legacy. And, I'm wondering what kind of a legacy that you might be hoping to leave behind at the end of the day, whether that is personal, professional, or even a combination of the two.
Yeah. So I think there's two parts for me. So one, from a professional perspective, I wholeheartedly and fundamentally believe that, Embasador, that our company will make, and maybe even arguably has made, but I think can make a much bigger dent in the marketing landscape. From one perspective is our mission, kind of as what we call ourselves diplomats. And I think we're well on our way. I think we've done a great job. We've worked with some amazing brands. Many of the folks listening have probably interacted with our technology without probably even knowing it. From a personal perspective, and I think it aligns with the business perspective, or what makes maybe our business successful, is that for me, I want to create an environment at our company where people can honestly realize that they can work in an environment and be challenged and grow tremendously, but also have a good time and want to show up to work every day. That was why I started a company. I wanted to be in a place and focus on something that I was excited about doing every day. And I think to build the best companies, you have to have people that feel that way, that are working side by side with you. So I hope that, if I'm not doing this any longer for whatever reason, people that were here with me felt that they really enjoyed the ride and really wanted to be here and have a great time every day.
Well, that's fantastic. And I know that you're a people person. I know that for you specifically, relationships matter. It's literally the first line on the Embasador LinkedIn page. So I am certainly looking forward to staying connected with you. If any of our listeners are interested in potentially connecting with you after today's episode, they want to find out more about today's topic, they want to find out more about Embasador, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Sure. Find out about Embasador is definitely go to our website, which is getembassador.com. If you want to talk to me personally, probably the best way or the quickest response will be via Twitter, which is Jeff, JEFF _ Epstein, EPSTEIN. And definitely let me know if you listened and if you have any comments or feedback. I'd love to chat and hear it, and that'd be fantastic.
That's great. Thanks again, Jeff, so much for taking some time out of your schedule, being with us here on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure getting to interview you.
Thanks, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. And we'll be in touch. Absolutely.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your no cost. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.